Hi everyone, I'm Shreya Sangam. By way of introduction, I graduated with PharmD in 2014 from Malla Reddy College of Pharmacy. Currently, I'm working as a PhD researcher in USA and I'll be receiving my PhD degree in the next year. So today I'll be talking about career guidance in USA for PharmD students. I think one of the most frequently asked questions for you all would be, what are your plans after PharmD and what are you going to do with your PharmD degree? And some of you might be saying that you have your plans to pursue further career in abroad or say US. So many students write to me asking questions related to career related options and how to publish during PharmD and how to get into MS or PhD programs in USA. I try my best to guide them. So when Dr. Karthik discussed with me that I should be doing this webinar, I felt glad and readily accepted so that it could reach a large number of students and might be of some help to them. So today I'll be covering various topics such as what is the scope of PharmD and what are the available career opportunities. And I'll briefly summarize regarding the licensure process too. I'll also talk about relevant master's and PhD programs for PharmD and what are the strategies and admission requirements and what are the funding resources and why should you choose USA. And I'll also share my professional journey and some useful links for you all towards the end of the talk. So first, I'll give my talk and then I'll be happy to take any questions at the end of the talk. Does that sound good?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so first let's start with how PharmD in India differs from that in USA. It is important to know this as it gives you a brief overview of how the pharmacy structure in USA works. As you all are aware how PharmD in India works, in contrast to this, in USA, it requires 4 years of professional study plus 2 years of residency. Residency is a kind of training program, just like internship. And doing a residency is not mandatory, but it requires 4 years of professional study for PharmD for sure. And the cost of PharmD education in USA is definitely highly expensive. Compared to India, it is tenfold higher in USA. Usually in India, we go for PharmD after your 12th grade or after B Pharmacy as post-baccalaureate. But in US, it is after 4 years of undergraduate or bachelor study. So after high school, if you want to earn a PharmD, it is 4 years of undergraduate work plus 4 years of your PharmD work, which is totally 8 years. We also have other pharmacy courses available in India like B Pharm, M Pharm, and D Pharm, and the minimum qualification to provide pharmacy services is D Pharm. But in US, the prerequisite to practice as a pharmacist is PharmD, and if you want to sit for NAPLEX, PharmD is a must. In contrast to 30 per class, there is 90 students per intake. And there are also dual degrees available, such as PharmD with MBA and PharmD with MS or PharmD with Masters in Public Health. So let's move on to the scope of PharmD. As you can see, these three here, I would call them as three broad avenues for PharmD prospects. Most of the career opportunities are related to one of these avenues. And the first one is working as a pharmacist, which is a traditional pharmacist job. And the second is academics. When I say academics, it is just not becoming a faculty or an assistant professor or a professor. In US, it is much more than that, where you have various research related positions in universities and also pharmacist positions in teaching hospitals. And the third one is to get placed in industries, pharmaceutical industries or biomedical industries or research institutes or clinical research organizations. So most of the opportunities are related to one of these avenues, and the main advantage in US lies in opportunities. You will know as I go through different career opportunities that are available. moving on to the available career paths, the first one is working as a pharmacist. As you can see here, I have highlighted a few roles, and based on the settings that you work in, there are different job titles for pharmacists. For, say, clinical pharmacist, they work mainly in clinics and in partnership with physicians. Next is community pharmacist or retail pharmacist, where they work in retail chain pharmacies, just like how you have Apollo and MedPlus in India. CVS and Walgreens are popular and widely located in USA. Next is hospital pharmacies, where they work in hospitals and are directly involved with patient care. And independent pharmacists have their independently owned pharmacies. And in addition to these, there are also home health care and managed care pharmacists. So, to practice as a pharmacist, PharmD is required, and qualifying in NAPLEX and securing a license is required. These are the traditional pharmacist jobs, and you'll be seeing different job titles based on the different settings that you work in. After this, there are also specialized area opportunities. Just like how MDs or doctors have different specializations such as cardiology or pediatrics, the same way pharmacists can specialize in various areas such as cardiology, oncology, or pediatrics. And based on their specializations, they are known as cardiology pharmacist or geriatric pharmacist or pediatric pharmacist. For these specialties also, PharmD is required and a license to practice in US is required. There are totally 13 specialties, and I have listed a few here as you can see. And getting a specialty certification is considered as the highest standard in pharmacy profession, and it will also place you in a higher position. So I have talked about different pharmacist positions, and outside of these jobs, there are also opportunities outside of becoming a pharmacist. As you can see here, I have highlighted different career paths outside of becoming a pharmacist. And as international students, if you want to get into one of these career paths, then you have to pursue MS or PhD after PharmD to get into these career paths. Everyone might not be interested in working as a pharmacist and doing the traditional pharmacy jobs. They might also be looking for healthcare related jobs in different avenues. So these are the career paths. I have generated a partial list which are important and very much relevant for PharmD students. As you can see here, I think few of them you're already acquainted with. And there are also a few other avenues such as pharmacogenomics, which is a new field, and also medical science liaison. So someone might ask me, why should we do an MS or a PhD after when we already have a PharmD? Outside of becoming a pharmacist, if you want to improve your job flexibility and market in a variety of industries and utilize various opportunities, then having an MS or PhD after PharmD is really helpful and will get you in one of these career paths. As I go through these different career paths, you can make a note of them or list them down. And if your focus is on performing scientific research, like developing, producing, or testing new drugs, and finding new applications to diagnose, prevent, and treat diseases, or if you're interested in improving patient outcomes and research outcomes, then you need a PhD after PharmD, and these are scientist level positions for PhD candidates. As you can see, these are all scientific positions, and they are highly competitive and are exclusively for PhD graduates. So Until now, I have talked about the different career paths that are available in US based on credentials, like the traditional pharmacy jobs, and then what are the different avenues which you can get into with PharmD and MS or PhD, and exclusively scientist positions. Now I'll talk about the steps how to get here. First, let's talk about the licensure process. This is a step-by-step approach for the licensure process. Some of you must be already aware of the steps, but I'll briefly summarize. So first you need to submit your documents to an educational credential evaluator and then give your TOEFL exam. And then this is the first major step, which is qualifying for FPGE. And then you have to perform internship and then sit for NAPLEX exam and then give a law exam in that particular state. Though you already know about maybe a little about this licensure process, I'll also give you some tips how to um, go through these steps. So after finishing all these steps, you are good to go and you can practice anywhere in US as a licensed pharmacist. Now I'll talk about each step briefly. So first, you have to submit your documents to ECE, which stands for Educational Credential Evaluators. They mainly evaluate your educational documentation, and their requirement is you should have completed a minimum of 5-year pharmacy program by the time of graduation. And this is the biggest advantage for PharmD students as they are directly eligible for FPGE and NAPLEX, unlike B Pharmacy. If anyone from B Pharmacy wants to become a licensed pharmacist, they have to pursue PharmD and then give these exams, whereas PharmD students are lucky enough to be directly eligible for these exams. So the main documentation that they require is your official transcripts and your official proof of degree and a photocopy of your pharmacy degree. I'm briefly summarizing the important points so that it will be easy for you to keep in mind the significant ones. So after you submit your documents to ECE, the next thing that you should be doing is taking a TOEFL exam. As you can see here, these are the minimum passing scores that are required, and the TOEFL scores are valid for 2 years. And you have to take this test from a test center in USA. You can't take it from India and then send your scores. If you are interested in becoming a licensed pharmacist, you should schedule your TOEFL exam in USA itself. And after this is the first major step is what I would call is qualifying in FPGE or Foreign Pharmacy Graduate Equivalency Examination. This examination includes testing your knowledge in these 4 areas, as you can see here. And the recommended books for preparation are APHA complete review for FPGE and comprehensive pharmacy review. But I have underlined APHA complete review for FPGE. This is an excellent and a highly recommended and a must book if you want to qualify for FPGE. And FPGE is offered once per year, and you're allowed 5 maximum attempts to successfully pass this exam. And after this, you have to perform internship. Depending on the US state that you're planning to work in, the internship hours vary from state to state. Mostly it is 1500 internship hours, and some states also require 2000 hours. And the internship that you perform in your final year of PharmD doesn't count towards this internship. You have to do it here under the training of a licensed pharmacist for 1500 hours. One point I would tell you here is there are paid and unpaid internships. If you're lucky enough, you'll get a paid internship. But if you're really interested in becoming a licensed pharmacist and if at all you don't get a paid one, then many students also volunteer to perform internships, and at last they get certification for working for 1500 hours or whatever. So one important point that I would ask you all to keep in mind is, if at all it is difficult to find a paid internship after coming to US and after you qualify your FPGE, go for volunteering. 1500 hours would take maybe an year, but if you are seriously interested and passionate about becoming a licensed pharmacist, then go for volunteering and get your internship certification. After this is the second major step, which is sitting for NAPLEX exam. And I have listed the websites that are highly recommended for preparation. One is the RX Prep, and another is Pass NAPLEX Now. These are highly recommended for foreign pharmacy graduates, and there are students who have been successful in qualifying NAPLEX using these preparation modes. Same like FPGE, NAPLEX is also offered, not offered, allowed 5 attempts to successfully qualify this exam. And it is just like GRE, you can take any time in the year. After qualifying NAPLEX, you're one step away from becoming a licensed pharmacist. And the last step is giving a law exam, or it is called as jurisprudence exam. Depending on the state that you want to work in, you have to give either a multi-state pharmacy law exam, or if you want to work in California, then you have to give this California pharmacy jurisprudence exam. So after finishing all these 6 steps, you are good to go and you can practice anywhere as a licensed pharmacist in US. So one thing I would tell you is, it is definitely time taking and requires a lot of efforts and deal and hard work. But if you are really, really interested in becoming a pharmacist, then I would highly advise that you should go for it. There are students from Malareddy College of Pharmacy from batches 2015 and 2014 who have successfully qualified NAPLEX and are working as pharmacists. So it is not impossible, it is definitely doable if you get the right guidance and if you devote your time for preparation, it can be done. Now, someone might think, okay, you told us about the different steps to become a licensed pharmacist, but what is it that we earn? How much is it that we earn actually? So this is statistics based on pharmacy salaries. As you can see, the average annual salary is in 6 digits, and the entry salary would be around $55,000 to $60,000. But the median salary is definitely in 6 digits based on the different academic settings that you work in, whether it is community pharmacies or hospitals or clinics. Pharmacy is a highly lucrative profession in US. So until now, I have talked about the licensure process and how to get there. Outside of becoming a pharmacist, I have also told you MS and PhD programs. Now let's talk about the master's programs in USA that are relevant for PharmD students. So I have generated a partial list of master's programs in USA that are relevant for PharmD students. And I have done extensive research and generated a list from top colleges, top pharmacy colleges in top universities. And as you can see, there are many master's programs that are relevant to pharmacotherapeutics or pharmacology or drug development, or whether it is social or clinical pharmacy. And it is important to understand what master's programs are relevant for you, or be aware of what master's programs are relevant for you. I'll tell you later in the talk why understanding what master's programs are relevant is important. Not only these, in addition to these, there are also some other master's programs that I have highlighted here. So interested students can make a note or take a photo. So from previous batches, I would say most of the students went for MS in Pharmaceutical Sciences and MS in Pharmaceutical Outcomes and Policies, and also MS in Health Informatics, MS in Healthcare Administration, and MS in Public Health. And in public health, there are again different concentrations offered, like biostatistics and epidemiology based on your interest. Now, as you have seen the relevant master's programs, what are the requirements to get into these master's programs? They require a GPA of 3 minimum, and they require GRE scores and TOEFL or IELTS scores, a personal statement and recommendation letters, and official transcripts. It is important to know these admission requirements as it helps you in working towards all these and getting your application ready. After talking about master's programs, next I'll talk about the PhD programs that are relevant for PharmD students in USA. As you can see, I have listed few programs that are relevant and that are relevant for PharmD students. My program is PhD in Clinical and Translational Sciences. There are also other programs such as Clinical and Experimental Therapeutics or Clinical Pharmacology. So based on your area of interest, there are different PhD programs, and it is up to you which program you want to choose based on your research interests. Coming to the admission requirements for PhD programs, PhD programs are highly competitive, and unlike master's programs, there are very few seats available for PhD programs in each university. Like there are less than 10 seats in each university for PhD programs, and there is worldwide competition. We'll be competing with students from China, Japan, Russia, or some other country. So it is important that you work towards your profile if you want to get into PhD, and also start working towards these admission requirements. They require a high GPA greater than 3.5 and also high GRE scores. Also, GRE scores are not required for all PhD programs, just keep in mind, and require TOEFL and IELTS scores, a very important personal statement and letters of recommendation and official transcripts. And one more additional thing is research publications. They look for research publications or research experience, and you should at least have one research publications if you are highly interested in getting into PhD. Now I have talked about what are the relevant programs and admission requirements. I'll discuss what are the strategies to get into these universities. So first thing that you should be doing is do your bit of research regarding what programs interest you. How do you do that? You can do that by searching university websites. If you go to the university websites, everything is out there regarding admission requirements, curriculum, what do you need to do to get a degree, and everything is out there, including the application process. So it is important that you do a bit of research from your side because it's your career, and you deserve to put some time and effort in doing research in what programs interest you. And after doing research, you can shortlist the programs and universities. And after shortlisting, you can make a note of admission requirements and start working on them. Like if GRE scores and English proficiency scores are required, you can start working towards them, start giving those exams. And you can also get in touch with your professors and get your letters of recommendation and transcripts ready. And once your application package is ready, then you can start applying to these universities. So one thing I would say here is you can't send one same application to all the universities. You need to have your application tailored based on the program that you're applying to. For example, you're applying to therapeutics in one university and pharmacology in another university. You can't write the same personal statement for both the universities. So you need to tailor your application based on the program that you're applying. And one strategy that I would recommend for applying is divide the universities or categorize the universities as top, moderate, and safe. Top universities are those which have low acceptance rates, but you can just give a try. You never know if you have a chance of getting into one of the top universities. And moderate universities are those which have average acceptance rates, and safe universities are where you are really sure that you can get into this university. So when you categorize universities such as top, moderate, and safe, it gives you a fair chance of getting into these universities rather than applying to all top universities and not getting an admission, or applying to all moderate universities and not getting high chances of admission. This really helps in getting fair chances of admission, whether it is for masters or PhD programs. Now, this is a video that I have that I want to share with you guys regarding how to do research for a program of your interest. So first, you can go to the browser and start searching for the university that you're interested in. And after going to that university website, you can see different programs here. And there is Doctor of Pharmacy and also different graduate programs like MH, PhD, MS in Clinical and Experimental Therapeutics, PhD in Health Economics, and also Regulatory Sciences. So if any program interests you, you can click on that program, and everything related to the program is out there on the website. As you can see here, it says that PhD will be conferred in one of the following areas of study, like molecular pharmacology and clinical and experimental therapeutics. And how about the admission process? That is also given on the websites. So for this program, it is clearly stated that GRE scores are not required. So you need not worry about GRE for this particular program. This might not be the same for other PhD programs, but for this one, GRE scores are not required. And as you can see here, it says preference will be given to those with advanced professional degree like PharmD or MD. So when you choose such PhD programs, it increases your chances of admission. Next, how to apply regarding the application deadlines and what are the different components of the application, like personal statement, your transcripts, your letters of recommendation, your test scores. Everything is given out on the website. So when you do research based on your program interest, it actually helps you in getting the application contents ready in an efficient way. And what are the funding sources for PhD students is also given here, that during the first 2 years they will be given a stipend along with the tuition fees. And as you can see here, the stipend is around $36,000, which is to cover living expenses, and health insurance will also be included. For those who are interested in getting into PhD, these are my suggestions. I would advise you guys to take your academic project in fifth year very seriously. If you conduct your academic project, if you do a very good project and get your research published by the time you graduate, it will be of uh, it will be of a great advantage. And if you are serious about getting into PhD, I would say at least have one research publication and also perform rigorous research on what are the available programs that are in line with your research interests. Some of you might be interested in cardiovascular research, or some of you might be interested in cancer research, and some of you might be interested in therapeutics or pharmacology. So perform rigorous research, just like I have showed you. And then you can also go through the current research, whatever is going on in the universities. That will give you an idea if a particular program is of best fit to you or not. And I would also suggest, don't do PhD for a namesake degree. Go for it only if you're really passionate about doing research, because it requires long-term commitment and it is also time taking. It requires like 3 to 5 years. But if you're passionate about doing scientific research and improving patient outcomes, or diagnosing, treating, and preventing diseases with your research, then this is definitely worth and also definitely rewarding. Coming to the funding resources, okay, I have told you about the relevant master's and PhD programs, admission requirements, and how do you research if a particular program is of interest to you or not. And how about the funding resources? So for MS students, funding is usually given in the form of graduate research or teaching assistantships. And when you get these assistantships, they'll help you in tuition reduction, and some of you might also get on-campus jobs. And this is how it works mostly for master students. And coming to PhD students, they'll be offered a stipend along with health insurance. And mostly PhD in USA is fully funded. Only if there is funding in a particular department, they'll give you admission. Students are also given complete tuition waiver throughout their PhD or tuition scholarships. Um, and they are also given graduate research and teaching assistantships uh, to qualify for tuition reduction. So when you get into MS or PhD in USA, these are the funding resources that you mostly come across. Now, coming to how do you gain entry into US? What are the different ways that you can gain entry into US to write licensure exams or for MS or PhD? Mostly for MS and PhD admitted students, they'll be gaining entry on F1 visa. Even if someone enters US as a dependent, they still have to convert to F1 visa if they want to pursue MS or PhD. And some students also enter on visitor visa or sponsored visas and qualify in their exams. So one advice that I would like to give you is, if you want to write NAPLEX and FPGE, one way that you can gain entry into US is apply for a master's program, and parallelly you can work on your licensure process. That is one way. Students have done that and they have successfully qualified in the licensure examinations. And second way is, if there is someone to sponsor you, you can come via sponsored visa and then write those exams and then qualify. So these are the different visa requirements. But if you are interested in becoming a pharmacist, this is one way where you can apply for a master's program and then come to US and work parallelly on those exams. someone might ask me, okay, you have told us what are the different opportunities, but why should we choose USA of different countries? One thing is there are numerous opportunities as I have listed, and there is higher acceptance of PharmD or PharmD with additional degrees such as MS and PhD, and there is high earning potential, and the universities are also global ranked. For example, even if you get an admission in a moderate university, the facilities and research infrastructure are still really very good and of global recognition. Whatever degree you earn in US will be globally recognized, and the research infrastructure is really of cutting edge technology, and world class research is performed in US universities. So some advice that I would like to give to PharmD students is cultivate knowledge all through the 6 years. Your knowledge is your biggest asset, and if you want to stand out from the crowd, I would say cultivate knowledge, whether it is your coursework or clerkship or internship or project. Gaining knowledge is one biggest asset that will make you stand out from the crowd. And I would also advise you to take your academic project seriously and perform a good one. And start networking with your peers or lecturers or seniors so that it will help you in finding right guidance, and get crystal clear about your career goals by the end of fifth year or at least by the end of sixth year. If you're planning for abroad, also get your documentation ready, like transcripts and letters of recommendation. One problem I hear from most students is that they don't have enough transcripts to submit to FPG or NABLIX exams. So, for example, if you're applying to 6 or 7 universities, get 6 or 7 sets, and one set as a backup for yourself, and one set if you have to apply to any document evaluation. So, get adequate number of transcripts, and also work with your professors regarding letters of recommendation. So, I'll also share my professional journey with you all. After completion of PharmD in 2014, I moved to US to pursue my PhD. I graduated with PharmD with a very good GPA and a good GRE and test scores. By the time I graduated with PharmD, I had 3 publications, as you can see here. I aspired to become a research scientist from the day one of PharmD. That is the reason I was very passionate about research and got publications, and then got admitted into a PhD in clinical translational sciences at the University of Arizona, which is one of the globally ranked universities. And I should definitely acknowledge that PharmD has given me a robust educational background to gain admission into PhD directly from India. And right now, I'm at Indiana University working as an adjunct assistant scientist in medicine. So I have moved to Indiana University on a temporary basis to conduct my PhD research for a temporary time period, but I'll still be getting my PhD degree from University of Arizona. My PhD research is in is related to cardiovascular diseases, and these are my uh, awards, some of my significant achievements. I have received a complete tuition scholarship and complete tuition waiver for my entire PhD. And I have got 2 research awards. The latest one is that I have got from American Heart Association. First, I got a cardiovascular research award at an internal level, and next I got an award from American Heart Association at a national level. I'm also a member of various organizations such as American Heart Association and American Thoracic Society. I have also done community outreach activities such as US Mexico Border Health Service Learning, and I have also presented my research at international platforms such as American Thoracic Society International Conference, as you can see one of my conference presentations here. So I'm sharing my professional journey not to showcase of my achievements, but to inspire you guys that if I could do it, you can also definitely do it. And these are some of the useful links related to FPG and NAPLEX exams and also the recommended books for preparation. At the bottom, I have also listed the MS and PhD programs that are relevant for PharmD students. This list includes all the MS and PhD programs that are available in universities. And if you think you need more guidance and you need to discuss with me, you are free to chat with me on LinkedIn or Facebook or email me directly. Now, I'll be happy to take any questions from you guys.
Hello there.
Yes.
My name is Aditya.
Hi, Aditya.
I wanted to know, like yesterday, I visited the ASHP website.
Okay.
There, I wanted to know if can you do residency program without NAPLEX or without?
That's a good question. Yes. So if you want to become a clinical pharmacist, then you need to do residency. Otherwise, residency is not mandatory for all pharmacist positions.
Okay. But do we have to clear NAPLEX for that?
So I'm not really sure because residencies are not mandatory, but you have to check on the website for the latest regulations.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Aditya, to answer your question, I have just checked with my friend who has successfully qualified in NAPLEX. She says, yes, you have to do it because you need license.
Okay. Okay. After clearing NAPLEX, do we have to like go there and apply for the universities for residency or?
Yes, you have to do it in US.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, I wanted to ask, you have said that for the NAPLEX exam, there is one you have to qualify California exam, and the other one is multi-state one. So if we attempt the multi-state exam, then does that apply to all the states, the remaining states except for California, or will we have to do specifically for different states depending on the region, like south, north, and east?
Okay, so when I say multi-state, it applies to most states. I wouldn't say all over US, but I would say most states. So when I have listed few useful links. When you go to the NABP pharmacy website, there you can see the requirements for each state. And most of the states recommend multi-state pharmacy exam.
Okay, so if we attempt the multi-state, that does not include California at all, or is like we have to take California one extra?
Yeah, you have to give California separately because if you want to practice in California, that their requirement is CPJE, which is California Pharmacy Jurisprudence exam.
Okay. Another question, ma'am. You said that if we want going for the PhD, we should like focus on our academic projects. So,
Yeah.
are there any specific areas we should look into, or any specific topics which would be more beneficial than others?
I would say it depends on the hospital that you're working in and the cases that are admitted in the hospital. For example, if you want to perform cancer research and you don't get cancer patients in the hospital, then you'll not be able to perform your study, right? So it depends on the cases that are admitted in the hospital.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure.
Hi, ma'am. Good morning.
Hi.
Ma'am, could you please tell us about some steps, some next steps actually after MS and PhD program?
So, as I have listed different career paths, after MS or PhD, you can get into those career paths like it can be you can work in pharmaceutical industries or clinical research organizations, or there are also new fields such as pharmacoeconomics and medical writing and pharmacogenomics. So it is dependent on what MS or PhD program you pursue after PharmD. For example, say you are doing MS in pharmacoepidemiology, then you'll have chances of becoming an epidemiologist. So your next steps after MS and PhD are based on your degree, like your program that you have pursued in. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi, ma'am. Actually, I had a doubt regarding the master's program.
Yeah.
So I saw an option that there is like MS in healthcare administration. So there
Yeah.
is, we have MBA in healthcare administration too. Like, which one would be more like efficient or for getting a managerial post in healthcare system?
That's a good question. If you're interested in becoming a pharmacy manager for managerial positions, PharmD plus MBA would make you an attractive candidate for employment.
Okay, ma'am. One more thing is like you said about GRE scores, and
Yes.
what about the GMAT scores? Are they considered?
If you're interested in pursuing MBA, then I think yes, they'll also require GMAT, but it again depends on the program. Like as I have showed you how they have admission requirements. I think mostly for MBA, GMAT is also required along with the GRE.
So for MS, GMAT is not required.
No, for
They
MS
don't.
it is not required, and for PhD also it's not required. Mostly it would be required if you are interested in pursuing the MBA.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
This is Akila.
Hi, Akhil.
Ma'am, I have a doubt regarding family program. Is it like we have to select a research topic before applying for the university, or later when we get the approval from university, we can decide it?
Are you asking me about the research topic for PhD or MS thesis?
Yeah, PhD, ma'am.
No, you don't have to really choose your research topic before getting into the universities. After admission, they'll provide you with rotations, or they're called as laboratory rotations, where you can rotate in different kinds of labs and finally decide which topic is best fit for you. You don't have to do it before admission.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, ma'am. This
Hi.
is Ramya.
Hi, Ramya.
Ma'am, so does it matter where we publish our research paper? Like whether PubMed indexing is really important?
That's a good question. So, I would say publish in those journals which have a good impact factor, like at least above two, because those journals are considered good which have an impact factor greater than two. Don't go for those ones which are less than two. And
Okay, ma'am.
indexing like PubMed indexing and Scopus indexing or Google Scholar indexing, yeah, then those are good journals and you can go for them.
Okay. Ma'am, is it really necessary to contact a professor before we take the admission into a PhD?
After you go through the current research on that university website for a particular program, then if there is something that really interests you, then you can email the professor after you submit your application saying I'm so and so and I have applied for this program and I'm interested in your research. Can you tell me more about your ongoing projects? you can email them in such a way, and this will help you in increasing chances of your admission.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, do we need work permit to practice after MS?
You mean to get into a job?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need that. So after F1 visa, you'll be on OPT, and during that OPT period, you need to get a job, and then your workplace would sponsor you for H1.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So visa requirements and all are beyond the scope of this talk. So I didn't talk much about them, but I have just given you the visa requirements, how to gain entry into US.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more questions from anyone?
Hey Shreya, this is Akila. I really thank you for giving us a very deep insight about career prospects in US. I have a single question, like what is your take on postdoc for an international graduate? I mean, how would you think would be the long term career of a postdoc as an international student?
That's a very good question, Akila. So, if you're interested in becoming a tenured faculty, like a professor at a university, then doing a postdoc would be helpful. If you are not interested in getting into academics, doing a postdoc is not really helpful. But if you are interested in working in academic settings and securing a place like a professor, then doing a postdoc is really helpful.
With the given conditions, do you think because if you have to do a postdoc, you'll be on your J1, so a maximum
No.
permission?
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
So Indian students
Mhm.
will do postdoc after the PhD, right?
Yeah.
So you will not be on your J1, you'll be on your H1. The universe, if you are doing a postdoc at a particular university, they'll sponsor H1 for you.
So the current statistics says that it is a very low probability of getting a H1 if you want to do a postdoc. I mean, because PhD is something at a beginner level, and if you want to gain experience in a particular area, postdoc is highly required if you want to establish yourself as a researcher or an academic researcher. So I thought, I would like to ask your opinion if we could have a chance to, uh, do research in the same area for a few more years in US, if that's a possibility, because I've been hearing about J1. Yeah.
One thing I would tell you for sure is only and only if you're interested in becoming a professor and work in academic settings, then go for postdoc. Because if you want to secure jobs with PhD, there are plenty of jobs available for PhD degrees, and you don't really have to do postdoctoral research for that. Postdoctoral experience is not required. So doing a postdoc will help you climb the ladder to professor. During, like as you said, if you want to go deep and deep in a particular area of research, like for example, say cancer research, then doing a postdoc definitely helps. But if you want to get placed in industries, I wouldn't recommend doing a postdoc.
Yeah, that is true. Thank you, Shreya.
So how many years will it take for someone to finish their PhD? They're committed to it.
So it depends on the program. If it is something like pharmaceutical outcomes and policy where they really don't have to do bench work research, then it takes like 3 years. But if it's something like clinical and translational research or something like pharmacology or experimental therapeutics, then I would say it would take around 5 years. But the normal range is 3 to 5 years, depending on your program.
Okay, so that's a lot of time. And I was wondering why, means I'm not discouraging her, why Akila wants to do postdoc after PhD.
No, actually speaking, she asked a very good question, and if she has good plans to become an academic researcher, that's the right way to go.
Yeah, but
Though
that's a
it's
lot of effort.
consuming and takes great deal of time and effort, it's definitely worth and rewarding because PhD is something which will stay with you for a lifetime. It's your degree for lifetime, though it may take 3 or 5 years to complete it.
Yes. So honestly, I don't have that much of patience to last for PhD and then even think of postdoc. So any more questions? We still have a lot of time. Actually, we requested 1.5 hours from her. So if you don't have anything, maybe we can end after 10 minutes.
So I have a question in the chat. Uh, can you please read that out for me? I'm not able to see the question in the chat.
Can you please explain how did you get into PhD in brief?
So, as I said, from day one of PharmD, I was interested in becoming a research scientist and perform or pursue medical research. And when I did my academic project on stroke in my 5th year, that increased my research interest even more, and actually increased my chances of getting into PhD. So I performed a stroke study at Narayana Hrudayalaya Hospital and published my research. I got 3 publications by the time I graduated with PharmD. And so I actually did extensive research regarding the available programs that are available in US universities, and then shortlisted all the programs that are of interest to me, and then started working on the admission requirements like GRE scores and TOEFL or IELTS scores. And yeah, I would definitely say it requires great deal of research from your side if you want to get into PhD. But if you're crystal clear that you want to get into PhD in your 5th year or 6th year, I would advise taking your academic project seriously because that is an opportunity to gain research experience. And it also looks good on your CV that you have performed a clinical research project.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi, ma'am. I wanted to ask that in the current situation of COVID, we are obviously not attending college or hospital. So, for us 5th years who are in 5th year now, the project is kind of getting compromised. Like, even if it won't be as good as it can be. Like, when we are attending the hospital, collecting cases and going on routes and all. So, what would you suggest? What can we do to still make it like that much good?
If you ask me, I would say those are uncontrollable factors which are not in our hands, like COVID. No one expected that there would be a pandemic. But in these tough situations, the best you can do is utilize the resources, whatever you have. So I'm not really sure how is it working for academics or colleges right now in India. But all that we can do is utilize the best of resources.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, I can add a point here. So this is not my idea, but I read somewhere a guy was promoting his webinar on Meta-analysis and systematic review, which can be a good alternative for you to work on as an academic project.
Oh, okay, so are you recommending a literature review
Yeah.
and
So I'm
meta?
not strongly recommending it, but that point struck in my mind. So you can do a meta-analysis, which also takes significant amount of time. So I don't know if such study will be accepted for a fifth year project, but that is a very good way of using your time productively. And the other
Uh,
thing is we are planning one study, but the advantage I have is a lot of context. So I'm trying to do it virtually. So if you know a lot of patients have their contact numbers, maybe you can try doing something where you don't have to be physically present. But for that, you need direct access to a lot of patients via phone or some other way.
So thank you, sir.
Sir,
Ma'am,
I'd
I
like
have
to
an
add a suggestion.
okay.
Sorry?
I'd like to add a suggestion. In current setting and in this pandemic, you might have a compromised academic project, but you can do a project in your internship as well.
Yeah, so maybe in your 6th year.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, I have another question. Like in India, mostly after family, we go for PhD. We do not have a master's degree here. So in the US, can we directly go for PhD after family, or do we have to go through the master's
You can go for
program?
PhD directly after PharmD. I got into PhD directly from India after PharmD.
Okay, thank you.
So in India, at least, PharmD is considered equal to PG. It is not a UG program. So ideally, the next step for PharmD should be PhD. I'm
Right,
going
that
by the value of degree, okay. But many students go for MS. Means it is their choice, but basically MS is nothing greater than PharmD. Means at least the what hierarchy wise or the terminology wise, it is the same. So if you are looking for an higher step, then PhD is definitely highest compared to PharmD.
even if you want to do a PhD in US, you can do it directly. You can get an admission directly from India.
Okay, okay, so thank you.
Shagusta, where do you stay? Actually, I got a request from Pranam Hospital. I think I shared in group where they are looking for
Yes, sir.
students. So that can be a good means area to do a project. But for that, I really need a committed student. We can implement a lot of clinical pharmacy services because the quality head there, I know him very well. So he personally contacted me and requested me to send 2 students. They will be involved in a job, and all those can be a very good project.
So, but can fifth years also join there? I thought it was for pass outs or interns.
6 years pass outs.
So your voice
But
is breaking.
my first choice will be 6 years, okay. But if I don't get a good candidate, I can consider it 5th years also.
Okay, sir.
Here we have question. Can you explain about transcripts?
Transcripts are your educational certifications, which lists your courses and grades. And official transcripts are given by Usmania University. And those are the ones that you need to apply to MS and PhD programs. And also, even for evaluation of your documents for NAPLEX and FPG.
And Amita, coming to your question, recommendations letter, you can get it from anybody you know.
Okay, so sorry, I missed that question. Can you repeat that?
As you mentioned about recommendation letters, should we supposed to get it from professors we will be working with or professors we know?
Yeah, like basically you can work with your professors and suppose, for example, you are applying for pharmacology, then you can ask your pharmacology professor. They require 3 letters of recommendation, so you can actually get it from your professors. It doesn't matter if they're outside the field also. They can still recommend you for a program. One more question is, do we have to do MCAT after PharmD? Is that right?
Should we write MCAT for PhD for getting into USA from India?
No, you don't have to do that. What all you need is giving GRE and IELTS and GRE and TOEFL or IELTS. That's it.
So Shreya, did you talk about
Did I answer that
the
question completely? You don't
hello?
have to give. Yeah, I'm just confirming if I answered that question completely. You don't have to give an MCAT.
So can you talk about the research you are currently doing?
Sure. So currently, my PhD research is on pulmonary arterial hypertension. Pulmonary arterial hypertension is a cardiopulmonary disease, and pulmonary arterial hypertension is high blood pressure in the pulmonary arteries. Pulmonary arteries carry blood from heart to the lungs. So when there is increased blood pressure in pulmonary arteries, it increases afterload on your heart, and it becomes difficult for the heart to pump blood, and it results in heart failure. So my research is on pulmonary arterial hypertension and associated heart failure. So there was a genetic analysis which was performed in pulmonary arterial hypertension patients. It is the largest genetic analysis to date, and this is a rare disease. From this genetic analysis, and this was performed in collaboration with US institutions and UK institutions, they identified a novel gene which was present in these patients. So my dissertation or my research is focused on what is the role and regulation of this gene in the pathophysiological development of pulmonary arterial hypertension. So nothing has been published about this gene and its mechanisms that lead to the development of disease. And I'm working on the therapeutics part and also dissecting mechanisms that lead to pathophysiological development of pulmonary arterial hypertension. This is long story short.
Yeah. So I wanted the same.
And
Some of your
during my
friends.
PhD journey, I have received 2 grants. One is internally and one from American Heart Association at a national level. That was actually unexpected, and I'm really lucky to get that.
So what is that grant about, and what will you be doing with that grant? What research?
So that grant is also related to my PhD research. Like I submitted a research proposal based on my PhD project to American Heart Association, and they picked up my proposal for grant funding. I'll be receiving my PhD in the next year, and till then, this grant funding will help me for some of my project expenses.
Okay, so when you apply for a grant, is it on your name or you apply on the name of other professor, or can you directly apply?
So when we are applying a grant, it will be on our name itself. Like PhD students are eligible to apply grants on their names itself.
Okay, so why
And
I asked, yeah, this question is so
so the
recently.
professor will just be a sponsor, but you will be the, what should I say, principal investigator.
Okay, so far I have not applied for any grant,
Okay.
but I'm coming across a lot of grants which I think can be applied.
Yeah, that's a
So
very
maybe I
good
will ask
idea to
your
apply
help.
for grants. Yes, sure. I'll be happy to help.
Recently, means I'm working with a startup called Geo, and we applied for a Pfizer grant, I think, which is up to $50,000,
Oh, okay,
and
that's great.
that is related to dermatology,
Uh-huh.
atopic dermatitis, and rheumatoid arthritis. So,
Okay.
means I was not involved in writing it, but I contributed very little to it, maybe just 10%. So, but I
Okay.
thought, why should we not try applying for some grant?
Yeah,
So,
it
if you can
makes sense to apply for grants because it actually increases chances for your funding and also improves visibility of your research.
yeah. And yeah, we have one more question. So, how much time does it take to clear the licensure exam?
It depends. For example, if you do it step by step continuously, then maybe it would take 3 years because you have to do 1500 hours of internship. That would take 1 year. And FPG is offered once per year. That will take 1 year. And after 2 years, you can give your NAPLIX exam. And so totally it would be like about 2 to 3 years.
So you mentioned pharmacy specialties like cardiology pharmacy, geriatric pharmacy, pediatric pharmacy, etc. Do we have any opportunity in gynecology?
So there are actually 13 specialties. I have listed 10. And in those 13 specialties, there's actually not anything related to gynecology, but maybe it can be included in critical care.
So these 13, are you talking about the board of
Yeah, both
specialties?
pharmacy specialties.
Okay. So apart
And
from that,
getting a specialty certification is like the highest standard in pharmacy profession. You must be knowing Aparna ma'am. She has board of pharmacy specialty.
yeah, be board certified pharmacotherapy specialist, I think. So
Yes,
recently I
BCPS.
came across one other lady. I think we did a webinar with her. Her name is Bhavna. She is certified in MTM.
Certified in what?
MTM, medication therapy management, but I think that is a different board,
Yeah,
national board of
different one.
MTM.
Sir, we are even Hisham, Dr. Hisham is also critical care pharmacist, no, sir.
So he's board certified in critical care pharmacy. I think he is the first one from India to achieve that.
Oh,
So
okay.
we did a webinar with him. Right now he's working with Cleveland Clinic in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
So yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask. If not, so as usual, if anybody wants to share their feedback, I will be very glad
So
because
hope this talk gave you some good insights and was of some help to you. And as I have listed my contact at the end of the talk, you are free to contact me if you need some more guidance regarding how to get into PhD or publishing your research or anything else. I'm happy to help.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Yeah, so I'm interested to get into health informatics. So doing a SAS program here would be helpful for me.
You don't have to do it, but if you do it, then it will look good on your CV. Then it will be like an add-on for your admission process.
so who asked this question, they can contact me after this webinar. So I have a lot of friends who did health informatics. Okay. So
Yeah,
one of
health
my classmates actually
is
starts.
one of the programs that many of the PharmD students from India have taken. It is a blend of computer science with healthcare. And in the bigger picture, you'll also be doing data analysis and working on software programs. So you'll get into clinical data analyst or clinical data manager, such positions after doing health informatics.
Yeah, so actually we have one more mentor abroad. Her name is Shilpa. Maybe Shreya might know her. She is working, and my classmate actually Srikanth. He was the one to start. So many people followed him. He was telling me his university is just like Mallareddy College, Bharat College, and Sri Venkateswara College.
Okay.
So almost many
I have
students, and
questions which I'm actually not able to see. Can you please read out to me?
so FPGs is conducted twice in a year. Did they change the format? Is one question.
Yeah, now FPG is offered once per year, and you have 5 maximum attempts to successfully pass through the exam.
So what is the best time to do PhD? Immediately after family or after getting some work experience here?
You don't have to necessarily get work experience. You can directly apply for PhD after PharmD, but you should start working for PhD right from your 6th year, like getting your papers published and attempting GRE and IELTS or TOEFL. So that will help you in keeping your application package ready, so that once you finish PharmD, you can directly apply for PhD. So I graduated in December 2014 and I received my PhD admission in around April to May and then moved to US for PhD in August 2015. So it's just like a gap of 6 months.
Yeah, so I have both such contacts. People like Shreya who immediately went, and there are a few others like Madhuri,
Yeah,
Adil.
Madhavi, I know her. She's from SV, right?
Yeah, I might have given your contact. I don't exactly remember.
She
And there
actually
is one other.
me once before getting into PhD, so that is the time I know her.
Yeah, so actually I was having only one contact, Adil. I don't know. I think he's from Deccan College.
Mm-hmm.
I
No,
was referring students to him for a PhD, and later now I send them to Madhuri, and Naresh is one more of my student who got
no.
admission recently. So I generally share their contacts. Now, if you don't mind, I can start sharing your contact also if somebody asks me for PhD.
Sure, sure. Madhuri also actually approached me.
Yeah, so now actually I talked to Shreya maybe 2 or 3 months back. I requested her to be mentor on our society. She agreed for that. And then I requested her to do some session as a part of Education 4.0. And she was extremely busy. I think few days back she was also part
Because
of
it's the
some
final
conference.
because it is the final year of my PhD, I literally don't have a minute to breathe. And even last night, I just slept for 4 hours. And because I promised Karthik that I would do it on September 1st, I wanted to do it. And we
Yeah.
actually planned it in July, at the end of July, but it took me some time to fit it in my schedule.
So that's perfectly okay. I'm telling all this for students to realize that getting 1.5 hour from someone, especially in their final year of PhD, is not easy. So if anybody wants to share their feedback, please do that. You can anyway send me on my WhatsApp also, but I'll be really glad if directly if you can share your feedback, that will be great.
Yeah, I'm
Good
happy
afternoon. Good
to
evening, sir.
part of this webinar and talk to you all today. And if this talk has given you some good advice, I'll be really happy.
Good evening, sir. I'm Tahura. I would like to share my feedback on this today's session. I wanted to thank ma'am for taking this time out to explain everything to us so extensively and comprehensively. Like it was seriously like really inspiring. You basically answered questions we didn't even know we could have. So that was very nice. Thank you, ma'am. And I would thank also Karthik sir for giving us the opportunity to get to
Okay,
know
so
you.
I'm like sick of hearing thanks every day. At least now just focus on Shreya. You can at the end of module you can thank me.
Well,
All I have
yes.
to connected are to you.
So yes, so I just wanted to thank you, ma'am. Like seriously,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is
I'm happy to help.
yeah.
Happy to
Thank you
help.
so much.
Happy to guide.
Right.
So Shreya, actually it is not really easy to get hold of people. Okay. So if I try approaching 10, maybe one agrees. So yeah, thanks for that. Not every person has that intent. What do we call it?
And also, there are two students from Malareddy College of Pharmacy who have successfully qualified in NAPLEX. And if anyone is further interested in knowing more details, I can just refer you to them.
Yeah, you can do that. Maybe we can have a session focused on the clinical pharmacy paths to become a registered pharmacist there. We can have one webinar. Maybe you can just reach out to them, and if they're interested, connect me.
Yeah, to mention their names, they are Manasa from 2015 batch and Bhavani from 2014, not 2014, 2016 batch. These two have successfully qualified NAPLEX.
So we can have a focused session on only that path. Shreya, I just wanted her to give an overview and maybe talk about PhD.
Yeah.
If you want a focus session on LabPlex and the steps to become a registered pharmacist, we can schedule. And on 18th or 19th September, we are having a talk with a guy called Cody Patterson, who works for Stanford. He has advanced pharmacy practice license.
Okay.
So you can talk to him on 19th. But like if it is somebody from India, then that will you can relate to them more than somebody from US.
Yeah, especially when we share our journeys, that might be inspiring for students.
And Shreya, if you have contacts or if you can make time. It need not be immediately. So if you want to offer some module or some series of webinars, I can definitely help. So right now I'm offering programs in clinical pharmacy, clinical research, recently in clinical data management, medical writing, and I think medical affairs. So except medical affairs, all of them are offered by FAMD. Most of them are my students. Medical
Okay.
affairs also, I have one student, Sunaina, who is working as a medical affairs executive. So if you can think of something like that, I can definitely pull really interested students.
Yeah,
The other thing
definitely
I wanted to ask was
to be a
for
part.
some collaborative research. All these years, I never focused on research. I just published one article very recently.
Okay.
But this year, I wanted to focus on doing at least 1 or 2 meaningful studies showing our value, one study every 2 or 3 months. So execution part I can take care, but I need ideas and writing a protocol. From there, I can take it. So if you have some really good idea and which can be implemented, and finally the objective should be how FAMD's involvement have improved an outcome. So this is the
Yeah.
broad idea. So if you have some projects in mind, I can execute it. So all I need is the protocol methodology. Then implementation part I can take care.
Sure, we can discuss further about it.
So can you share LinkedIn account of Mansa and Bhavani?
I'll
Bhavani,
send it to Dr. Karthik and he can send it to you guys
Actually,
if anyone is interested in the application.
Sir, I wanted to give a feedback for ma'am. Hello.
Hi.
Ma'am, thank you so much for firstly taking a
Sorry, lost you.
Shagufta, we could not hear. Can you repeat again? Can you talk again?
I guess we lost her, sir. Can I speak a moment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, ma'am, and I would like to thank you. The information which you have provided is really overwhelming. We came across each and every point which we need to know. I'm so thankful for it.
Sure. You're welcome.
Yeah. So, can we find this recording later as I missed few points?
So Shreya, if you don't mind, I can put this on YouTube. But if you want to restrict it, I can restrict it. It is your decision.
Yeah, I think you can put it on YouTube. That's fine.
Okay, and if you want any certain parts of it to be edited, we can even do that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you know if I want any parts to be removed.
Yeah.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Thank you so much for the detailed information, ma'am. Actually, I have a lot of doubts on PhD after FAMD.
Okay.
Many of people whom I have approached, they told me that PhD can be done only with the reference from the professor, but not directly to the university.
That's not completely true. You don't really have to contact the professor necessarily. There are also people who got into PhD just by submitting their applications to the universities. So I wouldn't say there's one like fixed route for getting into PhD. It depends on the program and also the university that you're applying. But your question was having reference from the professor, and I would say that is not completely true. You need not have it and also get into PhD.
Yeah, ma'am. That's why I kept it a side option previously, but I'm started working on it. I'm getting the information of PhD since past 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
But this session really helped me to clear all my doubts in 1 hour. Thank you so much for the session, ma'am.
Sure, happy to help.
Hello,
The
ma'am.
only suggestion is you should not give up in between. Okay.
Yeah,
So
Yes, sir, yeah.
really
spend
important.
time and explaining everything. So the best tribute you can give or feedback you can give is get an admission and then thank them. Okay.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. So few years back, I used to waste a lot of time talking about the process, etc. And I talk about US. After 2 days, they call and ask me about Canada. And after 2 days, again Australia. So I thought I'm wasting my time. So now
Sir,
I stopped.
it's all about just confusion, sir.
I
Yeah,
understand,
like
but
students, what they need right now is guidance to show them the right opportunities and right path, whether it is becoming a licensed pharmacist or getting into a PhD or getting a job in US. You have to do hard work, determination, and have perseverance. Only this will take you to the best position possible. No one is going to pave a career path for you after PharmD. You have to pave it yourself.
and
Yes,
at
ma'am.
least
Thank you.
you have few people to talk to. But I think Shreya and other people who first batch of family, you can imagine how they did it. So if they can do it, you can definitely do it, and much easier compared to them, because at least you have few people who are willing to help.
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
I
We
would
are
like to
happy
add.
that they were they are inspiring us.
I think there's someone who wants to talk.
Yeah, I actually wanted to add one of the experiences I had in the past. So when we were in our initial years of family, so we were seeking guidance from people who are actually doing their PhD. So I had approached one person. I don't want to take the name, but he's actually very famous in social media. He's a family. He's doing his PhD. So not in US, but some other country. So
Okay.
he reaches almost thousands of students, so he's pretty famous. So when I approached him, he clearly said that you cannot do a PhD right after your PharmD. It's you just forget about US. That's not going to happen. You can just try it in Europe or other countries. So I questioned him in many ways, but he said your college is not NAC approved or something, so you can never apply. So you have to forget about US. So there are people who misguide. So I can understand Akila's perspective when she's told about confusions, because people have their own perspectives. Because he has not done his PhD in US, he obviously cannot talk about it.
Yeah.
So.
I'm an example before you, right in front of you,
Mhm.
who has got into PhD in US after PharmD.
Really,
Exactly.
ask
Yeah.
me, okay, so I can give all my fancy opinions. Okay, but I have no opinions. So ideally, you should approach such people because they will be the right people to take you because they have walked that path. And other thing is, you don't have to blindly believe. I mean, if you know someone really well, maybe you
Also
can.
right.
Yeah.
People tell you
And
100 different things. You don't have to really believe all of them. You have to do hard work from your side.
I don't really find fault with it because that is how it is. Everybody will have different opinions regarding the same thing. So most of the time, I get questions: which country should I go? So
Yeah.
honestly speaking, I cannot answer that question. Okay, and which course should I take? Nobody can answer, not even me. Or which university should I choose? So,
Yeah.
so that is, I just give an outline, and finally you should decide, stick to that, and do it. Even if I say no, or even if somebody says it does not. So maybe we can close, or maybe one more feed we
Yeah,
can
I
take.
actually wanted to leave more time window for questions. That's the reason I wrapped up by 9:30 and left it for questions.
That's absolutely fine. And I think most of them asked questions and did not remain silent. I'm happy for that.
Yeah, that's
So
actually because only when you ask questions will I be able to help or guide.
yeah. So one last feedback before we close.
Hello, ma'am. This is Mangesh.
Sorry,
Hello.
I couldn't hear you.
Hello, ma'am. This is Mahvesh. Am I
Hi.
audible now?
You're okay.
Ma'am, I was actually very much confused about how to approach for PhD in US and all. So after listening to your speech, I'm a bit more confident that I also can do a PhD in another country. Uh, this is my first feedback I have given ever after listening to the Karthik's module classes. So
Thank you very much. If I
thank you
have
so much, ma'am. I
please.
actually want to thank you for that from my heart.
I wasn't aware of this much of I have to give an NAPLEX exam and how to approach for that. Each and every word of your slide, I have just I was on screen for whole class you have taken, and thank you so much, ma'am.
Sure. Thanks very much. And if my
Ma'am, this
talk
is my first
inspires
feedback I'm giving, and
one
I
point,
don't
I'll
know
be
why
ready.
I'm feeling myself. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thanks very much.
And others can leave a feedback on my WhatsApp. I think all of you have my number. I will forward it to Shreya. Okay. So let's
Sure. And
close
if they
now.
have any questions, also you can send me.
Definitely, I'll do. So
Okay.
yeah, thanks again. Bye. All the best.
It was nice talking to you all today, and I'm always happy to guide and happy to help. What PharmD students need is right guidance, and I think if I have done it, you can also do it. All the best, guys.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, Alvin, you can end the session.
Thanks, Karthik. I'll get in touch with you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah, bye.